one man on earth ever had a reason to hate the whole world, it would be him. But he had the exact opposite feeling. So that's what I'll say.
Thank you. And for you, Chris, what role, and to you, Amina, what role do you think music can play in driving social movements, both historically and these days?
Well, I think it's twofold. Sometimes it's people singing about things, you know, like Bob Marley songs or Fela Kuti songs or Bob Dylan songs. It's in there too, what they sing about, but also the power of an audience. You know, if they feel like someone they like to listen to is interested in something, then they get interested in it. I've done that many times with YouTube and so on, my heroes. And a politician is attracted to a large audience. That's, I think, the power of a festival is, rather than finger pointing and telling people what they're doing wrong, we give people a chance to come and be praised for doing something great.
Yeah.
You know, funding education or clean water. You know, so that's what I think the power is. There's a power in it to celebrate good and to highlight things that should be improved.
And I'm interested, was there an artist for you growing up that you said Bob Marley,
Yeah.
and you mentioned a number of others? Was there a song that you can recall that really inspired you when you were a kid?
I think maybe I'm Too Sexy by Right Said Fred. It deals with the problem of what do you do if you're too sexy? And that's a problem for some people. I don't want to leave them out. Everyone's yeah, so you've got to include everybody, even the too sexy.
Okay, that's great. How about you, Amina? The G20 this year.
Yes, he is, yeah.
It's a huge responsibility, and he's a progressive leader. What's your hope in partnership with him? Because obviously he's invited you to be part of the G20 process this year. So
Yes.
what's your hope in terms of what Argentina's presidency of the G20 can achieve?
Well, the feeling I get from him and his gang is that they are interested on a local level of talking about global things. So they're very motivated on education, which is what I think is the key to everything. And I think he very much wants to make the goals a big part of his agenda locally and when the G20 comes to town. So I get the sense that he thinks like a lot of us think, you have to take care of everyone in order to take care of yourself. And I just get a good feeling from him. I can't really say much more than that.
It's very good.
Maybe add on to that, because I think what Argentina are doing is absolutely amazing in bringing the SDGs front and center into the finance question, and actually talking about those billions to trillions, bringing concrete steps to say how are we going to do that, how are we going to fund climate action, how are we going to actually get to fund the education that he talks about, and it can't be done with loans and band-aids. It's really got to be done with growing and investing in economies, and there is a lot of idle funds out there, but we just can't seem to unlock it. So I think that visits that you make and the conversations you have with presidents like those of Argentina are so important because I think they bring a necessary reality to that global, local level. It means something that this is about a collective responsibility that we all have to get engaged in, because whatever we do from 9 to 5, when we go home, we're one of the 7.5 billion. And if we don't care about it, we'll get us, whether it's climate change or the terrorists across the borders, whatever it is, it will. So we all got to sort of take that responsibility. And sometimes we don't even know how we do it or the impression we make upon people. We just have to go out there and make the most of it. I think that's great that you go to Argentina and that you actually engage with presidents like that.
Yeah, you're being very sweet. I really don't know anything I'm talking about, except that the job of people like you is to say, well done and thank you.
Well, I think you're not giving yourself full credit.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think people want to be acknowledged, and I'm acknowledging President Macri for talking about the right things.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I'm interested, because both of you have been so generous to Global Citizen as a platform. What is it about either the idea of being a global citizen or the platform itself that has inspired you, both of you, to give your time to this?
Maybe close your eyes. It's inspiring to see. But on a really very, I think what Global Citizen has done to us is that when we say
naturally feel a global citizenship, and we see the same reaction to the same piece of music 20,000 miles apart.
Yeah.
And then coupled with that, we realize that most of the things that we can fix in our generation are global issues. You know, a plastic bottle floats from Japan to LA, and climate is everywhere, and the problems don't respect borders. So I think it's, of course, it's easier for us because we see it more, but just to encourage people to realize that the world belongs to them as well. Because, you know, we're all here, and we're all important, and that's what I take from it. It's just an encouragement that if you zoom out 100 miles, we're all sort of the same family, essentially. I'm going to stop talking way too heavy, but that's what I feel. That's what I genuinely feel.
That's great.
To Peter's point about, it always strikes me how lucky I was to be born exactly where I was. And even someone born 200 miles away from me exactly the same day, this guy is in prison, and it's entirely a basis of our respective educations and opportunities. So that's what encourages me to be part of this.
And as you think about what issues are most urgent in the world right now, so think about like what are the things that are, for both of you, that you're either most passionate about or are keeping you awake at night, the things that make you frustrated, the things that you desperately want to solve but you feel like, you know, really need attention. I mean,
Well, people going hungry every night, I think we don't really understand that. We talk about ending poverty, and I think that, you know, every time I go into a meeting that's going to take, you know, 3 or 4 months to get to a resolution, and we're trying to wait, you know, that 3 or 4 months in someone's life, going hungry every night is something that I can't sleep with. So constantly trying to find how do I get the urgency into our system in the space that I have. The other is that, you know, leadership. It really pains me that we have so much opportunity as leaders in the world to do something. We spend a lot of time looking at reasons why we can't do it. There's so much about that. When people talked about that this was, you know, poverty was a man-made issue, and I would just, you know, and the humankind can do something about it, but I want just to underscore the man and man-made. And I think that frustrates me that we cannot find a better way to address inequalities and to bring parity into it so we can change those power relations and maybe do so much more about it. And then maybe the last, but certainly not the least, is that we have been unable, in spite of saying that it's the cornerstone, it's the bedrock, it's the foundation, to do something about education.
yeah.
And it needs rethinking now. We missed the chance in the classroom. We're talking about frontier issues and skill sets that are, you know, going to have to catch up with what is new in the world and our economies and what we need. Truck drivers
is really to do with it. It's to do with all of them. You know, because I feel like if in your life you're able to do something you love, then that's a real gift. And most people don't get that gift, so that's what I think about.
And finally, this year is the 100th anniversary of Nelson Mandela, and we're honouring him this evening. Chris, firstly, would you share just briefly a bit about, not in full detail, but just about what's in store for the year ahead, but also...
Well, tomorrow I've got a photo club a lunch, I think, too. And then in December the 2nd, we're going to South Africa to do the Global Citizen Show.
Confidentially.
Hopefully, money independent.
Yeah.
We need some money, I guess, but we have artists booked, and it's hopefully going to. My 3 bosses are all lined up. But we really do it. To cut a long story short, there's the Global Citizen Festival in the park, in Central Park, in September. Then December, well, first of all, we're going to do something smaller in Argentina on the 28th of November. 29th, I'm sorry. And then December 2nd in Johannesburg, we're going to do the same kind of thing